Yeah, thank you so much for coming. We're really thrilled to have you come and give this presentation tonight. I want to introduce Velma Wagner and Betsy Alice, Jan Hauk, Stan Settinger, and Ron Parker, who are all here they're members of the Food Solutions Coalition and also members of the First Universalist Church, which is a working group. They're part of a working group of environmental justice and climate change teams. So thank you very much for coming and talking to us tonight. And I'll turn it over to you, Velma.
Or I'm taking it from here. So I'm Betsy Alice. I'm co-chair of the Food Solutions team at First Universalist, and we're delighted to be here amongst other activists. It's really great. And to say a little bit about our Food Solutions team, our purpose is to engage congregants, and our church is about 1,000 members, in restoring the planet by adopting 2 high-impact behaviors: reducing food waste and eating fewer animal products and more plant foods. So our focus is the household rather than larger food systems. Many of you are doing this already out of a deep concern.
Food and how we use it.
And perhaps also for human and animal health. We hope that today's presentation will deepen your efforts. So we've been around as a team since 2019. I wanted to say a bit about the kinds of things we've done over the last 3.5 years. We really are experimenting, so we take good note of what we're doing and what works and what doesn't, but we've done many presentations, a few workshops, and with all of that, have developed some good resource materials and links. We've done film showings, personal video testimonials of about 14 congregants who shared their path on Food Solutions path. We've done many plant-based potlucks, plant food mentoring opportunities, and cooking demos. Also, we've done food solution challenges, not only for individual participants in our programs, but also in partnership with Hennepin County. And I know Sierra Club has done this too, where we've recruited teams of people. And we're also proposing to the congregation to do a congregation-wide Earth Day climate challenge later this year, I should say around Earth Day on 2023. Another strategy has been customizing programs. For example, we did a workshop for elders last year, and we've done programming for youth, the latter involving a preteen summer camp on food and climate in partnership with the Midwest Food Group. And finally, all participants, this is something we do for most of our programs, give them an opportunity to reflect about the natural world and their commitment to taking action. We believe that this plays a huge role in changing behavior. However, saying that, the complexity of human behavior is continually challenging, and it prompts us to pay attention to new learnings, reading, the work of Joanna Macy and others who particularly believe that humans connecting close to the natural world, empathy, and inspire climate action. I know a lot of people really think that's key to the road ahead. Finally, we're keenly aware of the good works being done by other organizations in the community, like the Sierra Club. And for this reason, we reached out to Lori. You were the first one we reached out to about a year ago. And soon thereafter, to Minnesota 350, Compassionate Action for Animals, and other groups to form what we're calling the Twin Cities Food Solutions Coalition to particularly empower and support our work. So I want to thank Lori because she really played I think, a significant role in, our startup. So now for our presentation, we'll start by taking a minute to immerse ourselves in the natural world and try hard to connect with what we love most about our natural world. So now Stan is going to say a few words remotely because he was not able to be here with us tonight. This is a brief reality check on the net state of the natural world, and it'll be followed by some remarks from Stan.
There's something I would like to talk about. Our relationship with nature is broken, but relationships can change. The climate crisis, ecological crisis, and health crisis, they are all interlinked. We no longer see the links between them. We only see this far. So what will we do? My name is Greta Thunberg, and I would like to connect the dots. Because let's face it, if we don't change, we are f***ed. Millions have died from COVID-19. Zika, Ebola, West Nile fever, SARS, MERS, up to 75% of all new diseases from other animals. Because of the way we farm and treat nature, cutting down forests and destroying habitats, we are creating the perfect conditions for diseases to spill over from one animal to another and to us. The next pandemic could be much, much worse, but we can change. 8% of the world's agricultural land is used to feed livestock. Yet, livestock only provide 18% of our calories. The way we make food, raising animals to eat, clearing land to grow food to feed those animals. If we continue, we will run out of land and food. It just doesn't make sense. The land requirements of meat and dairy production are equivalent to an area the size of North and South America combined, from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. We have industrialized life on Earth. If we keep making food the way we do, we will also destroy the habitats of most wild plants and animals, driving countless species to extinction. This really sucks for us too. They are our life-supporting system. If we lose them, we will be lost too. In the words of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, for too long, we have been waging a senseless and suicidal war on nature. And what about the climate? We know that we need to drastically reduce our emissions starting now. When we think about the villains of the climate crisis, of course we picture fossil fuel companies, but agriculture and land use together are about 1/4 of our emissions. This is huge. It doesn't have to be like this. If we change towards a plant-based diet, we could save up to 8 billion tons of CO2 every single year. We could feed ourselves on much less land, and nature could recover. pandemics, loss of biodiversity, climate disruption, acidification of inequality, loss of fertile topsoil. These are all just symptoms. What they all come down to is the way we treat nature, the way we value nature. We need a system change. But we can fix this. Because we are part of nature. When we protect nature, we are nature protecting itself. And finally, the animals. Every year we kill more than 60 billion animals, excluding fish, whose numbers are so great that we only measure their life by it. What about their thoughts, feelings? Some of us plan the future, forge friendships that last for decades. They play, help each other. They show signs of what we call empathy. But 70% of the animals we farm live inside factories. In the United States, that number is 99%. Their lives are short and terrible. How will we be judged? It is heartbreaking to know all this, but it is also our opportunity. We know what we can do. We can change the way we farm. We can change what we eat. We can change how we treat nature. Some of us have lots of choices, while some have none at all. Those with the most power have the most responsibility, and most of us can do something. So, what will you do?
Greta says a lot about food and how we use it. What's the connection between food and the climate crisis? It's all about carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that enter our atmosphere. And what do we mean by greenhouse gases? Next slide, please. These are the gases that trap the sun's heat in the atmosphere, driving climate change. We're all hearing a lot about carbon dioxide as the most prevalent greenhouse gas, but there are a lot worse ones. We have methane, which has 30 times the heat trapping capacity of carbon dioxide. And we have the much worse nitrous oxide, which traps heat 300 times more intensely than carbon dioxide. Next slide, please. Here's the connection to the food that we eat. About a third of all the world's food goes to waste, releasing these climate disturbing gases. And the production of meat and dairy likewise releases these same gases. Next slide. How significant are these food-related emissions? Globally, food-related emissions add up to about a quarter of the total from all human-caused sources. By way of comparison, transportation-related emissions are much less, about only 14% of total.
So this data is, paints obviously a horrific picture about our climate. So we thought it might be useful and helpful to take a minute to reflect on what we heard and what we felt. And feel free when after a moment to share what came up for you on the chat line, or if you'd rather, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So this is just a moment's reflection. Someone said, wow, this makes me want to become vegetarian. I'm shocked at how much food is wasted. Yeah, I would say that I'm just always stunned to hear the statistics. You know, I don't always remember them in my formerly good memory, but it's really shocking. I'm shocked at how many animals in use are in factory farms. Use, I meant. And this person is pointing out these are USA statistics. Anything else? So,
Slides, Ron.
yes, we'll turn to, fortunately, there are actions that we can take in the food. And Velma is going to speak to that.
So the really positive is that the best diet for the planet is also the best diet for your health as well as for animal welfare. And that is reducing or even eliminating animal products. Next slide. So these are some of the benefits of eating plant-based diet, which you may know as being called a vegan diet. The current term is more plant-based, plant-rich. And a May 2022 American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine says that a plant-based diet benefits 6 health conditions: weight loss and maintenance, cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and COVID-19. Next slide. So this gives some information as to why the benefits are there for our health. Animal foods are very high in fat and cholesterol and very low in, if at all, in plant foods, and those contribute to a lot of diseases. Our number one killer in the United States is heart disease, and number 2 is cancer, and diet can prevent and reverse both of these. So what do you eat? Next slide. This is a idea of some food groups, you know, that are not what we grew up, the food groups, the 4 food groups that we learned. But this is, if you had the recommended servings of each of these, as you'll see around the circle, you're gonna get, you know, you're not gonna be hungry. These are very fulfilling as well as nutritious. Another way to look at it is in the next slide. Food pyramid, having the largest amount of what's on the bottom there, and then moving up with lesser amounts. And the next slide. This is yet another way to look at it. These are the circles there are recommended servings per day. So this is Dr. Greger recommends getting these 12 things every day and the number of servings. I want to talk about how to make a transition to eating these foods. And you're going to start where you are. And, you know, maybe if you're having animal foods every day, you decide to have 1 or 2 days a week that you eliminate them. Everybody makes different choices. Some people often will look at a very emotionally impactful video and that's it. They're done eating any meat or dairy. There are a bunch of movies out there that have done that for people. But the first thing that I would suggest, and now you can see the next slide, is eliminating processed meats. They are determined by the World Health Organization to be classified as a #1 carcinogenic product, as are cigarettes. So these are preserved by smoking, salting, or chemical preserving, and think of bacon, lunch meats, hot dogs, sausage. So that would be my #1 suggestion. #2 would be, as you learn from the impact on the climate, next, eliminating your consumption of red meats are contributing greatly to our methane, as you can see in the next slide. Mostly out of the mouth, not the rear of the cow. And the next slide, pork might be the next thing to eliminate or down on. And then if you're ready, next slide, taking a look at your intake of poultry, fish, eggs, and cutting down on those. So one thing you could do is a trial week of plant-based eating. And there are, as Betsy referenced, some challenges online that can help you do that, a 21-day challenge or whatever you decide to do. And you can get support, you can get recipes. If you were to just Google 21-day vegan challenge, I bet you'd find a bunch of things. But if you're going to do this, I highly recommend you document some measures so that you can see what impact this has had for you. So you might think weight when I say measurements, or you know, to getting a tape measure, those might change, but more impactful, you might take your cholesterol measurement, your blood pressure, and then also more subjective things to measure: your sleep, your mood, your energy, how your joints feel. Those things need to improve by eliminating animal products. And next slide. So I didn't use this term yet, but a whole food plant-based diet is reducing any processed foods. So this is the ultimate in being the healthiest. Eating, as you have likely heard, around the outer edge of your grocery store, inside all of the things that are in boxes and cans, but instead the things that are whole. And next, these are some examples of things that you can find online if you're needing some recipes. So these are just ones that I particularly like. My notebook is one. Next, Veggies Save the Day. It's amazing how much is out there. All of these are free. Next, Straight Up Food. You can just see the examples of rest there. You can't go wrong. And is there one more? Plant-Based Louise. She's someone I follow, and she gives free cooking classes. Actually, it's through the Sierra Club out in the East Coast that she gives her free classes. So yeah, I tune into those whenever she does them. I learned so many tips from her, not only the recipe she's teaching, but just, how to store foods well, and, how to cut certain things well. Is that it? with the slides. Oh, my ending one, changing how we eat will not be enough on its own to save the planet, but we cannot save the planet without changing how we eat. So another suggestion would be, if you're wanting some recipes, just enter the ingredients that you have on hand, you know, like enter lentils, mushrooms, celery recipe. You will find a recipe for burgers or lentil loaf or pate. Resources at hand. And with that, I will pass it on to Betsy.
Thank you. Val. So now we're going to move into food waste again at the level and start with a and then I'll follow up with some household.
Dear food, dear food. I know you already know this, but I need you.
You bring my family together.
You sweeten my celebrations.
You make my deals.
You satisfy my senses.
And you keep me alive.
Trabaja muy duro para que sea posible.
Spending your life growing in the field.
The factory.
Or the sea.
I tried to be good to you.
I give you half of my land.
2/3 of the water I consume.
1/10 of my energy.
And 1/6 of my workforce.
But I want to apologize.
Because after all that, you deserve to be eaten.
But instead, I throw away almost half of you. Enough calories to feed 150 million people.
From harvest to home, I waste half of all fruits, vegetables, and 1/3 of all trees. I'm better at meat and dairy, wasting only 20%.
But this is a double waste, because essentially, I'm also dumping all the grain or grass the animals ate to make the muscle or milk.
And I waste in many ways.
For example, sometimes I leave you in a field to die because it costs more to harvest you than you're worth.
Other times, I mistakenly damage, contaminate, or spill you.
Or I reject you when you're imperfect.
Because I judge by appearance.
But mostly I squander you in supermarkets, restaurants, and homes.
When you are so close to being eaten. I offer too much of you.
So I take too much and I can't finish you. Or I can't sell all of you before you go bad.
At home, I forget about you.
Or I cook too much and I don't know how to store you. Or maybe I just don't like leftovers.
Part of the problem is that on average, I spend a smaller fraction of my household budget on you than in any other country or any time in history.
And my spending is spread out over days and weeks, so I don't notice the cost of wasting you.
But my lack of noticing adds up. I devote 4 California's worth of land.
And more water than all non-agricultural consumption combined. Just to grow food that doesn't get eaten.
And your fault. It's mine.
Only I can buy less of you and eat more of what I do buy.
Only I can accept your imperfections
Realize that best before doesn't mean used by.
and store you better.
In general, I need to learn more about.
Because this is about us and our relationship.
So I love that short film. That's from the University of Minnesota Food Policy Center. Now this moves seamlessly into the 6 essential tips, starting with tip 1. Be mindful of Earth and the food we eat. And this is really a sacred that reminds us to respect the interdependence of life of which we are all a part, and to lean into feelings of gratitude and grief about the earth, helping us to see the world with new eyes, hope, and eventually action in the world. Tip 2, be mindful of the foods you waste. This is best done by another act of mindfulness, intentionally tricking our food to understand which foods tend to go bad in our own households. Experts now advise us to defer to our sense of smell and taste rather than food labels to decide what to toss. Tip 3, optimize storage, maximize shelf life. And we're talking in your fridge, freezer, and pantry. And note these pictures are of my refrigerator. On the left, the before, and the right, after I organized it. And you notice on the right, there are labels on the glass, paper, and silicone containers. No plastic is used. The fridge in the center lined with foods that tolerate warmer temperatures. And likewise, the bottom shelf back on the right is for foods that like cold, for example, meat and dairy, but I am a vegan, so that doesn't hold in our household. Moving to eat up bin. Do you see that on the third chat? Is a great reminder. What you do is fill that with foods that are about to go bad, and it's a reminder to eat them up first. And next slide is what's the best way to store food? In the fridge or the countertop, in a glass of water wrapped in a damp cloth and put in the refrigerator, the freezer. And that's why our best advice is to go to savefood.com, which is very extensive, or Cycling's A to Z food storage tips, which we see here. My favorite and what I use is the NRDC's book called Waste Free Kitchen Handbook, which is very, very good. Tip 4, plan meals around food on hand. For best results, go for a weekly plan and create a shopping list around that. But only after you do an inventory of what's in your fridge, your freezer, and pantry to factor in foods on hand, leftovers, go-to meals, and common ingredients. Don't forget to check out current food sales, obviously, if costs are a concern. Tip 5, prepare meals with waste and cost in mind. An easy approach is to make multiple servings, freezing leftovers for a second or third meal. You may have seen the tofu and spinach in my fridge that I turned into 4 meals, which I was very happy about. Also, favor locally grown, in-season foods and meals that use common ingredients. Finally, the last tip, tip 6, shop more, use a list, and waste less. Bill and I started shopping twice, not once a week, with actually very good results. We now have more time to eat up foods, and there's more space in our refrigerator to place what's new, and more visibility to surface bad foods. It's still a challenge for me. I'm constantly finding some little plastic, whoops, I said it. I do use some little small plastic containers, the ones you get with takeout food for small amounts. But all of this amounts to a really visible reduction in food waste. So those are the tips again, and we hope you take those to heart. So we're coming to the end of the program, and we hope that tonight's information has you tapping into some new energy around addressing household food solutions. Pursuing next steps, let's take a few minutes for questions. You can write those in the chat room, or again, we'll take hands. So seeing no questions, we'll move on to action steps. The minute, Lori.
Yeah, I have a question. I was just typing it into chat, but I'll just say it. Betsy, can you share those storage links again? I was trying to write them down, but I didn't get them all written down. A to Z food storage, there was NRDC waste free.
Yes. We'll send you a
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah, I was, so many.
Yeah,
good
it's very useful. It's just
Cool.
amazing how, varied the demands are of different foods.
Cool. I have another
any-
question.
Yeah.
The imperfect food, have you seen that available at a grocery store? I'm really interested in getting that, but I've only seen it if you like order it online, and then sometimes it comes with packaging that I don't want to get. Have you seen it? Are any grocery stores offering it that you know of?
I
I
have
haven't
not.
seen it. But
I have not seen it. It's unfortunate because this is a huge source of food waste, is that we are very particular about the color, the size, the shape of fruits and vegetables. So many of them never even make it to the grocery stores because they're rejected. And there's Misfit Market and Imperfect Foods that deliver them in boxes. But there's the packaging, and, because you've got to keep it temperature controlled. And there's the fuel of getting it delivered to you. So it's not an ideal situation. I did hear something, I think it was on public radio recently, just in the last week, about Europe doing this really well, and they call them wonky foods, and they're just eating them, and it'll be like an apple that's too small. We're so particular these days. So I also want to address this question here about how to incorporate flax seeds. I have taken to grinding mine. You can buy them already ground, but I think they're fresher if you have them putting in a coffee grinder and grinding them yourself. And then I keep it in the refrigerator because it starts breaking down as soon as they're ground. That's why I don't buy them already ground. And I sprinkle them on my oatmeal. You can sprinkle them on salad. If you mix flax seeds with water and let it sit for a while, you have the comparable baking equivalent of an egg. It's got that same binding quality, and that's a perfect substitute for an egg. So does that answer your question? Okay.
So now for action steps. If you have a piece of paper of you, or you can have a good memory, this is if you want to do it, you feel called to do it, we'd invite you to jot down one step, at least one step, could be more, but on over the recent days is that's the magic habit forming period of time. But of course, if you want to do it, like Velma said, there's lots of different ways you can jump on, but this is what we're hoping you do. But anyway, jotting down something that you're willing to do to reduce food waste and or to shift away from meat and replace that with more plant foods. And we invite you to share that at your next meeting. Unless you want to share it now. So we'll close. If anyone wants to do, anyone interested in saying what they're planning to do?
Lori?
Yeah.
Sure. We are trying to do more plant-based meals every week, but I think I'm gonna try to up that. We really don't do red meat hardly ever, very little pork, but we do eat chicken and fish. So I think we're gonna try, look for more vegetarian, vegan recipes and really try to increase the number of vegan meals we have every week.
Great, that's great to hear. And then someone else raised their hand. Yes, I don't know your name.
Yeah, Josie.
Oh, Josie, yeah.
We'll do research on plant-based, eating and figure out, what are good proteins and what are good this and that and everything to have balance. And I like your idea of making a meal plan of like starting out before you shop, looking what is there already. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Can I just say something about protein first? Fruits, vegetables do have protein, and grains have protein. And Dr. Greger, who I referenced earlier, has said that if you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough protein. So if you're eating a wide variety of fruits, vegetables, grains, beans are really high in proteins, that you don't really need to worry. And health that says otherwise.
But you do need a high volume of food, I think, with the vegan diet.
Yeah.
Surprisingly high volume.
Jean?
I have just recently started buying more beans and chickpeas and that kind of thing in bulk, which is good from the zero waste end of things. But I find that I will, if I can cook a batch of those and have them ready in the fridge. So I might have black beans one week and pinto beans another week and chickpeas. And then I have different grains, quinoa, rice. And it's so easy then to have those basics, but different types every you can really throw them together very quickly with whatever else you might have, spinach or peppers or onions, pineapple, whatever, and just make some really good, tasty variety of non-meat based foods.
Yeah, that's a great advice.
And making large amounts of beans, you can freeze some of them too. So you can have a, different kind of bean, switch off. You don't have to only eat what's in your refrigerator to eat that up.
Yeah, I didn't show you my photo of my freezer in which the entire, I try to use uniform ice cream, 1 pint. Anyway, chickpeas, lentils, black beans. It's just really great, very convenient. So Karen, did you have your hand up?
She's frozen.
Okay. So anyway, that ends our, Anne. Oops,
I was just going to say that I liked the idea of having an eat now container in your fridge. And then we've also tried to shop more frequently too, because I get so frustrated with our food waste because my husband loves to buy vegetables particularly, but we just can't eat them all. And I can't see what's in there because there's so much in the fridge and we just waste, we compost it, but still it makes me insane.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to shop more frequently and buy less at a time. And I find it so much less stressful.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous to say that your food, could be stressful, but there you go.
Well, who knew that we had to declutter our
Yes.
refrigerators and freezers?
That's right. Yes. Thank you. This was just excellent. Thank you all.
Good. Good. I'm so glad. We're so happy to have been here. And as I said to Lori, we'll send links to the different things and that should help. And keep up your outstanding work on plastics. It's really great. And one thing I actually reached out to Cassie about this, Cassie from MM350, about the food challenge we want to do at First Universalist. And she said, yes, maybe MM350 would like to be included. So I extended an invitation to Sierra Club to think about doing that. It's not been put together yet, but you could send it out to you must have enormous numbers of people on your mailing lists that you engage with. So it might be fun to have a whole bunch of organizations doing this together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing the food challenge. So send us information on that too. And
okay,
we
great.
can share that with our membership too. So
good.
Yeah, and in fact, I have
Sorry.
some things that are going to go out soon. So yeah, we'll be in touch with that, and I can share that information. So
Good.
Thank you so
Right.
much. This was really so fantastic to learn all this information and get all these good ideas to think about and try out. So
Good.
thank you all very much for coming and
Much
sharing
love.
with us tonight. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. And I realized something when I started helping to put this together, is that this Sierra Club was really responsible for my move to Minneapolis in 1971. My first husband was the first staff attorney for MPIRG, and I know that the Sierra Club was working with MPIRG and of course on the different issues that they did. So thank you. It's been a good life for an activist here in the Twin Cities.